Right.
For this, maybe, maybe, This.
Okay, welcome to the nuisance abatement board for Thursday, July 13th, 2023. Detective, if you would lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Court Reporter, if you would please call roll.
Mr. Lindsay,
Present.
Mr. Fannum, absent, Mr. Pimper,
Yes.
and Chair Slotnick.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Very good. All those that will be testifying, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Okay, when you do come up and speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Thank you. Okay, Detective, let us start with case number 23-02-01.
We want to approve the minutes?
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry. Everybody should have received the minutes. I will need an approval and second.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Okay, Detective. One Stop Shop 23-02-01.
So over the course of the last 30 days, the business has had only 3 calls for service. One of them, and the only one that has a report written, didn't actually occur at the business. They just used the business because that was the closest geographical location to something that had happened with the vehicle nearby. But it was basically just 2 911 hangups. I think given the location, given where the business was at, that's phenomenal, obviously. And obviously to the credit of the business owner. We did some spot checks. The business itself, all the lighting is working, cameras are out. Obviously, the business owner is very attentive. The business was closed on one night that I did a check, as obviously they state. They're doing everything they can do. We're in constant communication. We speak about certain little things as they pop up. I wish that there was actually more that the police department could do for some of those little pop-up things that don't occur on the property, but I give you all the credit in the world. They're doing everything and more than that they need to be. So that's a report from our side.
Thank you for your continued efforts to keep things great. The times that I do drive by there's nobody loitering out there. I just drive by and it's like, wow, this is great.
Good example.
Yeah, very good example.
Thank you so much.
We truly appreciate, and for your own,
It is. It
Peace
has
of
helped a
mind
lot.
is
No,
great.
believe it or not, like when I've been in this program since that day we've been showing up here, is a lot of change in that corners in the areas. If anything I have any issue, I will connect Jamison about it. So far, everything is good, running smooth and easy. And thank you so
thank
much.
you very much
No
for all
problem.
your efforts. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we don't have a meeting next month. So the next month's
I'll be
meeting will
traveling
be
next
September. So,
Oh, okay.
September
September.
14th will be the next.
I'll be back.
all right, keep up the good work.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you, everybody. See you guys
Thank you.
in September.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
You guys are like.
Monica Ferrer contacted me about feedings going on at the bus stop. Is that affecting them at all?
Yeah, it's affecting them because there's a lot of messiness and bleed over and things like that, but the business or the property line
He's keeping it
for
square.
his particular business are almost like not even an inch of sidewalk. It's literally just the building.
Right.
So he tries and tries, but it's not really, it's more of a city.
It's a tough area.
Yeah, it's a very tough area.
But I have to give them credit because when I drive by there all the hours, I don't
Great.
ever see people that are watering out there. It's clean out there many times at night. So, and especially with the bus stop there.
Yeah, but they close it down at night. They have like a big slide door that comes down and, they've done everything that we've asked them to and it's shown, but
So they stay under a jurisdiction for a year, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no early
No
It's up
early
to the board.
dispensation.
It's up to the board.
Oh, it's possible to do that?
If they move forward. it'd be
I
up to you.
think,
when is their?
I think, not until like January or something.
February first
February.
is the date of the,
He, in my conversations with him, and I don't want to speak for him, but, he doesn't mind being under nuisance abatement because what was happening a lot of times with the property is that something would occur around there. The officers would use that as the address. And he would essentially get blamed for something that occurred off the property, just like with this, that burglary that came in. Car got broken into in the street, but it shows up as being on at his address because it's the nearest geographical location.
Now we stick it at McDonald's.
So now that that Joyce and I are involved with it, they have to be very clear. And we're able to at least filter through, to say what's happening here and what's not.
yeah, it's a landmark. It's not
McDonald's
the-
back up.
Wow,
Right there.
I never would have thought that.
But he
That's
actually
like
enjoys it
landmark.
because if he has a problem, he just texts me and we do what we can. And so, yeah.
Maybe one stand.
He just shows up once a month and says,
If he
hello.
wants to stay, he can also pay a membership fee.
Yeah, that's what we can start selling them.
Or join the board. All right, let's go on to our next case, which is 22-11-03, 5100 North State Road 7 Plaza Hotel. Detective.
For the past 30 days, we're down to 30 calls for service. Just to put that into perspective, last month, prior to this month was its lowest month, so it's now reached another lowest month of calls for service. Obviously, that's exactly what we want to see. It continues to trend in the right direction. I guess, put in some context, if you recall, at our last meeting, the hotel requested a reduction in the police detail hours. We had some conversation about whether or not that would result in an increase of calls for service. It's down, would that be 26%? So I did have some feedback from Robert that the detail, even though they have made the requests for the hours stipulated in the order, it hasn't always been filled either. And that's not for any fault of the hotel. That's, I guess, a fault of the police department for staffing
Availability.
issues, availability, things of that nature. So I believe there may be a request from the hotel about further reduction. So I just want to put into context that even after the reduction, it was actually reduced theoretically more so than even what was ordered. We did do some checks of the property. This was just 2 days ago. The front of the hotel looked clean. There was nobody loitering or hanging out. If you want to go to the next slide. This is the back door.
The door.
The door was
Not
actually
changed yet,
not a problem this time. The door was locked. There was one door that was propped. That this seems to be the door that's always propped. I don't know why exactly, but I think people just go out there to smoke and leave it propped open. I don't know if it's an employee thing, but that one always seems to be propped. But I don't actually think that this one is probably the main problem. But if you go to this was a door on the south side, and you can see it's just people are tugging on the thing as much as possible just to try to get the thing open. Even when another detective and I were out there the other day, there was a guy who was trying to get the back door open, and he got frustrated because he couldn't get it open, and he picked up a parking paver like he was going to smash the thing out, and his girlfriend said something to him, and he thought better of it and put the parking paver down.
They just don't walk around, can't walk around, huh?
So it's, Robert and I had a conversation. We think it would be mutually beneficial to maybe put some different signage up that says, please use front door. There are some signs that say, please use other door. Maybe some signs that just say from dusk to dawn, use front door only, because people are really just going up to that thing. And I mean, we were there for 15 minutes at that particular door, and within 15 minutes, a guy's picking a parking paper up, trying to thinking about
That
smashing.
door was
the thing
crowbar
out.
though. That was,
Right.
that was.
Yeah, so,
That's not a paver. It's going from the pool from their car to that door.
So that being said, obviously the doors had been a problem. The hotel's been under jurisdiction for, I think, 6-7 months.
In November, yeah.
Yeah, I did have a conversation with Robert about adding to the order some sort of 30, 60, 90, I think we've discussed 90-day deadline of actually replacing those doors. I think that that's a mutual agreement there. The hotel understands it needs to be done. Now it's slow season. The hotel was trying to do it anyway. They had a work order. The person never pulled through for the original one. Robert since worked on other ones, but I would like to put something down because that is of a little bit of concern for the police department. Once the busy season gets into effect, I want to, I guess, maintain the fact of us being down to 30 calls. I forget what we even started at, but I think that would be maybe one of the last few things to really drive home the security of the hotel with the added signage. And I'll let Robert, or either of you, I guess, speak to the door thing, if they agree, or I don't want to, of course, speak
That's
for you,
all
but.
3 doors, correct?
But you can tell they added a plate over that bolt and they still just hammered it.
Just,
That's a massive plate.
but I don't think that that first door that's always propped, you could actually go back.
Metal commercial door.
I don't think that door needs to be replaced. I don't.
It actually needs to be replaced.
The-
It has been propped open quite a few times and by crowbar also on the other side, we like kind of screwed it up maybe 10 times already, so it has to be
Okay.
replaced. I know. it
That
has to
door
be replaced.
I've always only seen propped. The other two doors seem to be, of course, you're there every day, but.
And imagine if it had a handle on that side, what they would do to it.
So my only recommendation, as far as that would go, would be to add signage to the door,
That's
but
an exit door though. That's not an entry door. There's no handle.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, that's
we
nice.
removed the handle. It used to be one. That's why there's a reader on the side because the customer, they used to be able to slide their card and get in. That system's not working anymore because we upgraded our key lock, but we have a new system. We just couldn't find a contractor to install it. I've got no issues of having 90 days to get those doors installed because I do think that we're gonna get them in 8 weeks, let's say, because we're finally negotiating the final contract with one contractor to get the 3 doors replaced. And to have also the entrance, Dormacaba entrance, like that customer can go in and out.
So
I
they're
think-
tamper-proof, those doors, like?
There should be. Right now, this is what the last company has given me.
Steel glass,
Impact
yeah.
glass, temper-proofed. It's normally hardened steel doors. So this is what took us a lot of time because I couldn't get just a regular door. This would happen again in less than a month.
Right.
So I do trust that within a week, I think this contract will be signed,
Cameras.
but the door delivery will take 6 to 8 weeks. That's what the contractor told us. So if I have a 90 days, I'm pretty confident that those doors are replaced.
Is there a camera on that door?
There is a camera on the 3 doors, yeah.
on my checks of the property, there seems to be no loitering. The issues with people hanging out in the cars has ceased to exist. I was there specifically on days that the detail was not present. But as I went through the 30 days of calls for service, there's no Part 1 crimes. The only, I guess, even slightly criminal aspect to call was some dispute where a person said their luggage was stolen by their friend who they had some verbal argument with. So as far as the calls for service go, I do want to give credit where credit's due. I mean, this is exactly what we asked for. No Part 1 crimes, no narcotics calls, no, calls are down, the crime is down. I just really think is certainly with the hotel not having objection to it, I would like to put something in writing to say that those doors will finally be put to rest, but
You're making a difference.
yeah, for sure.
Well, I think probably the word is out too, with the changes that you've made since you've been under the nuisance abatement board. People know you're serious about it. And we're seeing the police presence, the signage, the changes that you're making. It's a big help to help you guys what you're doing.
Thank you. I think that what made the big difference is when we start giving trespassing order to people and then they couldn't come back because they were still coming back through different names or loitering around. But once they got the trespassing order, I think they saw it was much more serious.
Yeah.
We also went on some ads website. I mean, we tried quite a few stuff possible to get all these people out and they're all like interconnected. So I'm sure that they all talk to each other and now it's not safe to be at the plaza anymore for them.
And you changed your staff.
Staffing has actually, management has completely changed. So since I was here, I would say the past 3 months, there's no more manager that was here that is still here. Apart from my supervisor, but all my head of departments, everyone has changed.
what's happening with your catering person that was
The restaurant.
the restaurant, yeah.
The restaurant, well, I gave them a last chance, so they're still there, but they're not doing any more events. If they're having events, it's until 9 PM and small events. There's no like big speakers or whatsoever happening outside. So all that is being controlled. Restaurant's still there, but no problem whatsoever that happened lately.
But we certainly appreciate your efforts. I know you want to get this behind you and everything, but what you have done and what you're doing made a big difference. And we're grateful for that. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I didn't know if you wanted to bring up or discuss regarding the police detail.
The police detail is one thing I would like to discuss because for sure we're in low season and we're having, as I explained, a lot of expenses these days. I'm keeping my security for always for 3 shifts, that's for sure. I have 24 hours coverage. But I would like to request the board, if it's possible, to drop down on detail. We were having 3 days of detail, but in true honesty, I've been having maybe 12 to 14 hours a week only because detail couldn't cover all the shifts. I would request going down on the details to 0 hours if the board approved, but I will keep my security to 24 hours every day still.
Your security, by the way, do they go to these, do they walk around?
I have a picture of the doors every hour.
Every hour, okay.
Every
that's-
hour,
those three.
I send those to Detective Jones. I do have
Right.
pictures of the door every hours. They have sensors on each door, so they know when it's open, but honestly, it's propped open like 10 times an hour. They try to go close as much as they can, and each day I have a daily report of what happens in the property. It's by guard tech, it's by default, so I have
Okay.
everything documented.
Okay. And what are the hours of detail now?
Currently, the hours of detail, we were booking them from 4 to midnight still because we couldn't change them. We discussed
2
last
days
time.
or 3 days?
3 days. We were discussing last time of changing the hours, maybe putting 8 PM to 4 AM, but they really had a hard time filling. And when I discussed with Surgeon Wright, he told me that almost no one will take those shifts. So if you're doing that, you're like putting yourself to almost 0 hours. And maybe, the calls would come up. So I didn't want to take that risk. So I spoke with Detective Jones if we could keep those hours 4 to midnight. We kept it that way, but they're not always filled.
So you don't think there's any value, you want to go to 0? You don't think there's any value?
In true honesty, I don't think there's any value if I do keep my security, because before I did not even have any security coverage. If I'm talking of last year, I'd have only 8-hour security, not a professional company, no report, not an armed guard. Right now, I'm going to the 24-hour security a day, armed guard. So I do think if I remove my security and I remove detail, for sure, I'm in trouble. But currently, I'm always going to keep the security. I'm convinced the owner that this is a necessary thing for the hotel, even moving forward, even if we're not in the board anymore. The presence of having 24-hour armed guard does make a huge difference, and they're in the hotel and they always walk inside. I do not think that the detail will affect much the calls. Currently, we saw that the calls dropped, even though the details are here just 14 to 15 hours a week. So I do think without details, my call will still drop.
In my mind, all these things that you're doing that, some of them we made you do or whatever, is like they're in your best interest anyway, as a hotel owner and operator. They help your property and your property value. So, it means that if you do see, if we approve this to go down to 0, if you do see that there's, for some reason, unexpected, but there is like a, worsening of the situation, then I would expect you to, reach out to us, to the detective and say, these hours actually, I still need help.
This I completely agree. What I want to do is, normally I do ask Detective Jones how many calls we're at, how is the property looking. If I know that it's going ugly, we're getting more and more calls, I'm going to get the detail back. My objective is not coming to the board in 2 months and you're going to tell me we got 45 calls, 50 calls a month, get the details 24 hours. Again, that's not my objective. So for sure, if I see that there's issue, I'll be proactively calling Detective Jones, Surgeon Wright to get more detail at the hotel. And we've already discussed if the occupancy is high and there's a special event in one of the days or it's a busy day, I'm going to get a detail for 8 hours or 6 hours.
Okay.
That's not an issue.
Oh, so you can do that. You can.
I can do that.
Oh.
That I have no issue. I
Okay.
don't want the calls to go up. That's not my objective for sure.
No, I understand, but you also want the safety. You don't want to, you want
Luckily,
to stay on track.
yeah, want to stay on
Right?
track.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to improve the product. That's why we
Yeah.
cleaned up the place a lot. We
Right.
renovated all the flooring of all of the rooms. Still got some doors to change, the outdoor doors. We still got a lot to do. I don't think the property is going to be completely revamped before a year.
Yeah.
But within a year, I think you're going to see big changes to the property. exterior, interior, that's what we're working on right now.
Can they just abate the detail? Not like.
Can they get rid of it?
No, can they just like put it aside and then if they want it, it's easier to reactivate it than to write an order to get rid of it and then another order.
Well, why don't you hear Glenn's motion and then we can go from that? And then if there's any discussion.
Lingering.
Just to maybe help from the police department side, any business can hire a detail
Mhm.
for whatever hours they want. They could do it for 3 hours tonight and never again. They could do it, we need X, Y, Z. So the order only served the purpose of essentially forcing the hotel to do it.
Mhm.
So if Robert decides, hey, or Jay, I have this event, or, for some reason on Tuesday nights, we've seen this spike, they can call the police department and do that outside of us. It certainly, the order doesn't allow it to occur. The order only makes it occur, so.
I would move to modify our order to require within 90 days, replacement of the 3 doors referenced here. And then to, remove the requirement for any set, security detail. We can revisit the September meeting.
Just from a language perspective, if we could put police detail
Police detail,
instead of because
fair enough.
Was that a formal?
Can I
motion?
repeat that back? Just to make sure I
Yes.
please. To modify order to request within 90 days or 90
Days,
days, the replacement of 3 doors referenced here and remove requirements for any set security detail.
Police
police detail.
I'm sorry,
detail.
Police,
Yeah, we changed that verbiage.
I'll second.
any police detail and revisit at September's meeting.
Just to kind of see how it's going.
That's good.
And Avi seconded.
I second.
Madam Court Reporter, would you take roll, please?
Mr. Lindsay,
Aye.
Mr. Pemper,
Yes.
and Chair Zlotnick.
Aye,
Motion carried.
motion carries.
Excellent.
just as a side note, we continue to receive the updates from the hotel. Jay has sent, and I apologize, I don't always respond, but I do read them. Sometimes it's at 1 o'clock in the morning after my kid goes to bed, but, the hotel is providing us with like very detailed reports on anything that occurs. That's extraordinarily helpful. So, props to you. You've only been here for a couple months, but the numbers keep going down. So, great work.
Thank you.
And hopefully September at our next meeting, it'll just be along the same lines that it's at least stable, if not going down, and we can keep it this way.
But we hope, and we do trust that it's gonna go that way.
Awesome, thank you so much.
And
And
Robert,
again-
if you get a contract, could you email me a copy?
Yeah, for sure. You should receive an email from me next week because I'm working out with them. Like today, I got 2 quotes. I'm gonna get it signed. The owner's coming tomorrow, so this is gonna be fixed.
The owner's coming.
The owner's coming to, wants to see the improvements and what we're gonna do moving forward because we're doing a lot of renovations. So all these pending stuff are gonna get all signed.
Great, that's very good. So September 14th is our next meeting. You get August off. So do we.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you in
Thank
2
everybody.
months.
See you in 2 months. Thank you again.
Look, guys.
Come sit.
Anyone here that's representing the 3081 Northwest 19th Street, you guys can take these seats. Sir, I'm sorry, I've never met you before.
I represent the tenant, Wiles Lyons.
Oh, okay. Have a seat. We'll have, we might have to pull one more over there.
Oh, they're good.
He's always an attorney. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to swear you in, please.
Sure, sure,
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay, and when you please give your name to the court reporter and spell your last name.
Okay.
Sign the.
Correct. It's Wiles Lyons.
Wiles Lyons LLC. Yeah, and my last name is Rice, like the.
It's supposed to be. I think that's just a typo. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, we are now gonna call case number 22-11-. Oh, sorry, what the wrong one. 23 05 03, which is 3081 Northwest 19th Street, first hearing detective.
So for the past 30 days, we were at 26 calls for service. Most of the calls came in as some sort of noise disturbance or other type related disturbance where the officers don't write reports on those. So I really don't have too much information, but as far as any kind of actual crime or incidents that occurred on the 17th of last month, there was a report of an assault. And generally speaking, it looks like there was some dispute between two different people at the store. That kind of spilled out into the parking lot. It looks like it went back into the store. And essentially officers handled. We started out at the first six months or past 6 months, being at 147 total. The rough math on that was an average of about 30 calls for service. We're about 26, but luckily only one incident actually involved a police report being written where a crime had occurred. It was about maybe a week and a half or so after the board took jurisdiction. And I would say there was a complete night and day difference between what the property looked like upon taking jurisdiction to about a week later. And I give these gentlemen all the credit for that. They were in constant communication with me. The grill got removed. All the garbage and stuff that was on the side in that alleyway got removed. I went inside the store. The clerk was much more cooperative than he had been in my prior visits. Not fully cooperative, but much better. At least upon that visit and that inspection on that day, all the items that we had told them to remove had been removed. All the parking spaces up front were clear. There was no one loitering, and it was an unbelievable change in, what was that, a week or not even. So I do want to give the property owner all the credit in the world for responding to that and, you know, doing everything that they could do to clean that place up. However, I was in communication with the property owner's representative. I did an inspection on Tuesday night. If you could go to, there was a few people hanging out on Tuesday night. They were off to the side. You can see them kind of over there on the right, but this is on the property and they had set up some chairs. This is about like 10:30 at night. They didn't look like they were doing anything crazy, but you know, just to note it. And then if you go to the one, if you see on this one, however, the only reason why I even took this picture is because two of the things that that we had asked for, among others, obviously in the order, was lighting and cameras. And this area of the alleyway, just to kind of, I guess, set the picture, that wall that you see on the left is the tire shop. And this is the alleyway that runs from the front parking lot to the back of the property where the alleyway is. There's people hanging out in there. Obviously, I didn't arrest them and test it, but they're smoking something over there that probably wasn't marijuana. But if I had to guess, probably crack cocaine or something similar. So it's definitely important that the lighting gets put up over on that side, as well as cameras. And I'll let, I guess, the property owner bring us up to speed, because you guys could probably give a better picture than I could about kind of where we are at for the board on, you know, what's been done and what's still remaining.
Is this the side between the
This is-
shop and those? The convenience
Yeah, this is
store?
that same view of those people, but it's looking from the alleyway down to the front. So my phone does a really, really good job of lighting that up, because it doesn't really look like
Oh, I
that.
see. That's right.
Like this looks great, but you can actually see in the reflection of the light.
What is that? Is that a that's over in there?
Yeah,
Really
And
good.
who needs access in that walkway there for that back deck?
It's a neighborhood back there.
Who's speaking? I need to,
Oh, Willis Andrews is the last name.
thank you.
And just keep in mind, there's an adjacent property, so, you know, it's limited, we have limited control. So it is a neighborhood that they go pass through. I don't believe there's much we can do. I was hoping that we can kind of put some sort of barrier there, but I don't think it's possible. But like the detective say, cameras and lighting would definitely make a big difference on that. But we've been having several issues with the tenants not cooperating with us pretty much at all. Ever since the last board meeting, everything that has been done by the property owner and myself. And
So you want them, you're saying they're not cooperating, you expect them, or they're supposed to be the ones putting the camera and the lights there in the alley?
yes,
That's what you're saying?
yeah, that's what
Oh.
it is.
As per their lease.
Yes, per the lease, yes. And also, we did, Detective, I don't know if you've seen that extensive email, and just to be frank, we did catch some reoccurrences of sale of drug paraphernalia. We went in and to our surprise, it was right in the open again. And we were very disturbed about it. We called the Fort Lauderdale Police Department and did a report immediately. And, you know, to say what was taking place there. Otherwise, they've been keeping the place clean. I spend a lot of time there talking to people, just saying how important it is not to stand outside. And the guy you see in the truck is actually the maintenance guy of the property. So he's there throughout the day, kind of helping out. Sometimes he'll tell people, hey, don't stand here, or, so we spend a lot of time talking.
Wait,
to
the truck
individuals.
that we saw in the picture?
Yes.
Oh, so that truck was actually affiliated with the?
Well, the whole he do maintenance work for the
Oh,
entire
so it
property.
wasn't just like someone, strangers?
No, he's not a stranger.
Him and his friends, or?
Well, some people come in because he's well known. He sort of grew up in the area. So a lot of people come and associate with him. And keep in mind too, they have a restaurant in the inside, and some people like to get a plate and then stand outside and eat, and they go back in and out. The loitering, I tell you, that
Where's
property.
the restaurant? The
His client, yeah, the
oh, there's
tenants.
a restaurant in there?
Mhm.
Oh.
Well, not like a restaurant, right? I mean, it's more like they
Like
serve
a
food, right?
bar,
Yeah.
Not a restaurant,
take
yeah,
out,
but
there
they
you go.
take out.
Is that the truck you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, for the board's
Yeah.
consideration, makes complete sense that
Mhm.
that's why it was there. They weren't causing any disturbance. They were just hanging out. So obviously if he was working, it makes complete sense. But Mr. Andrews sends me very comprehensive reports. I do this as an ancillary position, so I don't always have time to review them all, but the property owner, and obviously Mr. Andrews has been doing a phenomenal job. They're in constant communication, sending us updates and information. I think maybe he has some frustrations about, not being able to complete everything that's outside of his control. But I don't know, at what point, if you want to speak about, I guess, the business owner side of things.
Yeah, I think we've tried, the tenant has tried to comply with everything that the landlord has requested and that the nuisance board has requested. The tenant did remove the gaming machines and the sex pills, and we were notified that from Willis Andrews through an email that there were still some drug paraphernalia stuff that was still being sold, some rolling papers, and we did remove them immediately thereafter. So we are trying to do everything, possibly they are strapped, a bit financially. It's the sales are a bit down, but they're trying to do everything possible to maintain the convenience store and work with the owner. And, we've had some issues with some of the terms of the lease agreement and who's responsible for what, but hopefully we can work through those problems and resolve any issues that the nuisance board, continues to have with the property.
So what about those lights and cameras in that alley? How do you see that?
I think I probably would have to talk to the landlord a little bit about that. I don't know if the lease terms mandate that the tenant provide the cameras and lighting in in that alleyway, but I'd be more than happy to take a look at it. I'll try to resolve that as quickly as possible. It's not that I'm saying that we wouldn't do that. We would do that to resolve, a situation like that in the alleyway.
Okay.
But if you could give me just, a couple days to try to figure out whether my clients can afford to do that immediately. Hopefully they can, if they are in fact responsible under the terms of the lease to do that.
Do I know for,
No, we have the lease, we got.
Yeah, we have the list right here.
I believe it requires it to, I would say.
Yes.
I read the lease.
It
Tenants.
requires the tenant.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rice. My name is Don Laundrie. I'm with the city attorney's office.
Okay,
And how long have you been on the case?
just recently, just like, about 2 weeks.
Okay, so you're very new. Have you worked on this property before with a different owner or anytime?
No, I haven't. I've just done research, and have listened to, the tenant side of the story. I know that, in their opinion, a lot of the stuff, some of the crime issues, some of the other stuff related to the loitering and stuff predated their tenancy, which only started, January of this year, at the end of January. So, and I guess they feel like, at times they've been kind of scapegoated for all the problems at the properties and, but, they want to stay at the property. They want to do the best they can and make this situation work. And if they are responsible, as you stated, under the terms of the lease to do that, then they'll get that done. The lighting and the cameras in that alleyway.
Fortunately, it's a short lease.
Yeah, it is a short.
Is that the only thing that's
For commercial
outstanding
lease.
right now? Recommendations?
Yeah, so in my opinion, that the property would not be in compliance with those two portions of the order, which would be the cameras and lighting.
Would not be.
They're not in compliance with those two.
How many days did we give to get that done? I don't remember. I don't have a copy of
So
that.
what about the other?
Well, can I make a statement?
You want-
Well, just to answer the question about the amount
Yeah.
of days, within 30 days, the owner shall install and maintain a minimum of one exterior video surveillance camera. And I won't read the entire thing, but basically the cameras were 30 days. And then it states that the owner will maintain all exterior lighting on all sides of the building according to City of Fort Lauderdale code requirements. And the owner will install and maintain exterior lighting that will completely illuminate the parking lot located on the south side of the store, the alleyway on the west side of the business, the rear parking area. These will be illuminated from dusk to dawn, but it doesn't state that the owner has any time to do it, that it's just that upon execution of the order.
Make that statement. Make that statement, a statement. Sure. Okay. I just want to be clear, and I'm just gonna address this as honestly and as firmly as I can. I've been communicating with Mr. Rice for over 3 weeks. Since this came about, he get copies of the reports. And each report I put on the bottom what is not in compliance. The tenant or the attorney has not made any effort to try to resolve not one issue. Everything that has been done, the landlord and myself did it with his finances, and it's taken a financial toll on him.
So wait, all this list is supposed to be the tenant as
Yeah,
well?
it's supposed to be
like
the
you're
tenant.
right, you read it.
Yes, and the lease says net to the landlord.
Right.
And it's very clear, and I'm sure the attorney read the lease because he actually quoted some things out on the lease with the letter and the email. So I know he's well aware.
What do we do?
If I may,
I'm sorry.
hold on, guys. What's going on is we have the owners of the property here,
Yes,
management for the owners.
yeah,
Then we have tenants on the property.
yeah.
So these tenants and the landlords, who's gonna pay what? It's really gonna come
Right,
down to
yeah.
their contract relationship, which we're not gonna interfere with.
Right, I know.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna see if they're in compliance or not. And if
Right.
they're not in compliance with what you all mandated for them being in the jurisdiction of the Nuisance Abatement Board, then you have alternatives to bring them into compliance. That's fines.
Okay,
And that's
okay,
if you can shut down parts of the business,
right. Okay,
you can limit things, but we're not gonna get involved in the tenant and the landlord. Who's gonna
We're
pay
not
who?
getting
That's right, that's right.
involved, but but we're looking to the owners. We're not looking to the tenant.
Well,
right?
no, we
as the
have,
board-
yeah, you all have jurisdiction over the property.
Okay,
Now, if the tenant and the landlord can't work it out, we don't care. Eventually, we're gonna chain the door shut and walk away,
Yes.
okay,
and it's gonna last for a year.
okay.
But all that has to be done under proper notices. You'd have to have a tenant and an owner that just weren't working things out.
Okay,
If they're gonna argue about it and fight about it, we don't care as long as it's done.
right,
Right, is
right, right.
that make sense?
No, it does, totally. No, I'm just saying everything that the detective read, it's talking about the owner. That's what I'm.
Right, but the owner has a lease with this tenant, and I can tell you that lease requires, and that's what
But
I
we're
think
not
he was saying
even
was his triple net. Yeah, what
Right,
it is that that tenant, I believe, and I only read the thing once really quick. But I think, I believe the tenant is responsible for bringing the property up to code.
okay,
If there is anything found up to code or anything, and stopping all illegal activities, what it has something about that. It's a very short lease,
right,
but again, that comes down to the tenant and the landlord. Now, if we shut the business down, obviously the tenant's not gonna pay the landlord,
right,
so the landlord doesn't want that, and
right.
vice versa.
Tenant wants things
I think they
right.
probably wanna work things out.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, that's not our goal. It's not to shut everybody.
Right,
down. We want you to be successful, which is why there is the recommendations that were made by the police department, and we have to enforce us.
right, it's a 30-year lease, a 20-year lease, I understand?
Yeah, 20 years.
Yeah, so it's different when we're doing a hotel and they're creating new contracts all the time and staying for a day or two, then we can affect the actual contract and the lease. That's different.
Yeah.
That's use of the property.
But okay, let's say specifically, if one of those things where within 30 days, owner is supposed to do this and that. And
Right.
that has not happened because owner is requiring the tenant to do it and the tenant hasn't done it.
Right.
So they're not in compliance.
Right.
That's true.
The owner is not in compliance.
Right, the property's not
The
compliant.
property is not in compliance. So now we can levy
Well,
fines.
it's up to you what you want to do.
Okay.
by
it's up to
talking
us.
to them.
We have the authority to.
Right, that's up to you all.
Right.
And you give,
So we would find the owner. If we
The
find
property. You find
the property, yes,
Right.
yeah, the property, yes.
you can lean the
If I
property.
may, I just want to state that if there is camera and lighting that needs to be done, I would just request my property, the tenant that he just be given, just some time to comply with that, and I will talk to him immediately and he will seek compliance. Mr. Andrews has made several accusations. I just want to address them. I have asked the owner, which is Mr. Prasad, for some sort of management contract that Mr. Andrews has. I don't know that he has the authority to speak for the owner. And I've just asked to see a contract that between Willis Andrews and the property owner to determine, if in fact he is authorized to speak on behalf and act on behalf of the property owner. And I haven't received that. That's my only issue with Mr. Andrews. Once I see the legal authority, that's fine. But everything that is requested, the camera and lighting, my client will definitely do and try to comply as quickly as possible. I guarantee you that.
If the owner told you now that he was, that's okay, would that be,
In front of this board, yeah.
Yeah, that's suffice, so we can do it here.
Speak for a second. Yeah, thank you. Devendra Prasad, and last name is Prasad, P-E-R-S-A-U-D. Correct. I just want to comment and, well, thank you. Good to meet you, Mr. Rice. I haven't met you before. The issue we have at hand is based on the structure of the lease, we're limited in terms of our access to the tenant space. So with that said, we are handicapped to meet all the compliance requirements, which I'm willing to do from day one in front of this board. I've committed to that. And we have made good faith effort to do everything within our power. And based on the access we were given to do certain things. When this order was given, the operator, who is the spouse of the tenant who is on record in the contract, met with us. And we made very clear, we had a very, I think, a cordial discussion and went through all the details of the order. And obviously what I got from that meeting was a totally shunned in that meeting with respect to him wanting to cooperate to do anything on this order. Basically, we discussed cost and everything that will be associated with getting this done. And I have made very clear that I have to protect my investment and my asset. I've been there for 13 years. I've never been in front of the NAP board, and we have done everything to comply. From that day on, we have not heard anything back from the operator. No, Mr. Rice is representing them now. I've said it in the first meeting I've been here. When the orders were given to the clerk and I confirmed in speaking with the operator who is the spouse, that he did receive the report. He said it to me. He said, I put it aside. I didn't worry about it. That was his statement to me. So that was clear to me that he had no interest to actually comply with any of the orders that was in front of us, the property owner. So I have zero faith, actually, that they are willing to work with us to do this, because this is about the fourth or fifth conversation I've had with them. And until my property manager engaged with Mr. Rice and made very clear that this is not an option. This is a requirement, an order that we must comply. Otherwise, I'm putting my investment at risk. And the operator has shown me total refusal to cooperate. Now,
That's not true.
if they were willing to cooperate, we issue an invoice that this is costing money and we need you to reimburse us at least as we're going. We didn't ask them for the whole thing. There's a total refusal to even pay $1 until today. So I have to foot the bill for everything to make sure that I'm in compliance with this. And obviously, so I don't know from this standpoint on that I'm hearing that we need more time to fix the camera and the lighting. I have zero faith that it can be done because they have had this information for more than 6 weeks or 8 weeks and have done zero. We actually had to go in that day and order them to remove the machines, remove the paper. They didn't move it. We asked them to move it. We ordered them and forced them to move it. And when I called and I said, these things have to be out by 4 p.m. If not, we will come in and have to move it. Then there was movement. They were told, and if I can state one more thing for the record, the detective from alcohol and tobacco was in there, got me on the phone and said, you're selling illegal items in the store, not knowing that I was not the operator. I was on the phone with the owner and the clerk and said, you are told that these items are illegal. They cannot be sold. They said they're going to remove it. They remove it and the next day they put it back up. So they show blatant respect for the authority. So I don't know at this point in time that I have any faith that they want to even comply with the rule. What less listen to me? They don't believe the snap board is important or the orders are effective or
here?
can be enforced. I'm just saying
They
that.
have an attorney here.
I am saying what my experience with the tenants.
Yeah.
So I know you're speaking.
Mr. Prasad, I gotta tell you, we're not interested in the tenant.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it's a lot of back and forth about the tenant and you,
Yes.
but that's not our interest. So
Right.
after the NAB board
Mhm.
told you it had to be done and you talked to the tenant, you felt like you had no faith.
Yeah.
Did you ever hire an attorney to sue
Yes,
them for breach of
that's gonna
contract?
be my next
So
point.
you have an attorney?
Yes.
Okay,
Who is
and
that attorney?
Well,
you
so
might be-
we gave you the
Who is the
information.
attorney?
We gave you that information.
so
we're not
you
gonna
know, you
argue.
can sue them for breach of
no,
contract,
we
which
are-
released, and then you can move to evict them. And that might be more moving on the boards, not to hit you with more fines, but I can tell you right now, no, we don't care about your tenant relationship.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter. And then, you know, in all fairness, Mr. Rice just stated, they did hire, they may not have got the camera up and the lighting, but they did hire an attorney. And I gotta tell you, NAB, it may not be them being rude to you that they don't want to do anything, but they might not know what an NAB board is or what authority we have. Mr. Rice, have you ever worked with the NAB before?
Yeah, I have.
So you know what
Not-
they
not
are?
With this,
Right, but you know where the statutory authority comes from, you understand what it is?
yes.
It's serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the tenant would have any knowledge of that until they hired this gentleman to come sit on the behalf. And now he's coming down saying he wants to work with us, that's fine, but again, these people that represent the city of Fort Lauderdale through the NAB are the ones that are interested in the owner. And I don't know, I don't want to hear more about the tenant.
Well, no, that's what my last point was gonna be, that we hired an attorney. They are working on the case. They're working on the file as we speak. They wanted to see what took place here today. And that is our next move. And it is active. We was gonna invite the attorney here today, but like I say, it's been a financial
No,
strain.
I'm not saying it's not, but again, we
But
need,
we are emotional.
these gentlemen here control.
Yes.
Yes,
I guess I
Yes.
just have
This gentleman too.
one question, obviously the tenant is now aware of the order as we sent you a copy.
Yes.
Is it true to say, or fair to say, I guess, that the tenant is not going to stand in the way of either doing themselves or allowing the owner to bring the building into compliance? Whether it's cameras, lighting.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
for
So,
sure, yeah.
because from our side of the house, we want to make sure that the order is complied with. There's a reason why we order the things that we order. So, we don't see things like we see. So as long as the tenant is not going to stand in the way, the tenant is aware of the order, whether the tenant does it, the owner does it, we just want to make sure it's done and everybody else can sort it out later. But in the meantime, for the board side of it, the property is not in, I can report that the property is not in compliance from the standpoint of the video and lighting.
Now, as a point of clarification from the board, in the event that the board finds non-compliance now, it would be left to a future date to determine any sort of assessment of a penalty related to that non-compliance. But if the board does not find non-compliance now, and we have 60 days until the next meeting, and they're still not in compliance, we can't retroactively find them in non-compliance dating back to this meeting. Is that correct?
You could find them in non-compliance today. I think you're correct.
Okay.
If I could add to it, if I could add to it, you can find them to be in non-compliance today. And you could assess fines up to $250 per day. Or you could assess the fines and hold the fines until the 60 days to see if you're going to enforce it or not.
Right.
And then you could make another ruling at that time. Or you could just assign them until they report back to the detective and show that they're in compliance. At that point, they'd be, free to do. But we're talking about a camera that might only cost $250.
But if we don't find them in non-compliance today, and we come back in September and they're still not in compliance,
You can find them in non-compliance again, but you
but
couldn't.
we couldn't find them retroactively in non-compliance dating back to this meeting.
Correct,
Okay.
unless you find them today, but you can hold the fines today.
Right.
So you don't say you're gonna pay, you can say you're gonna pay when the next meeting is, you're still in
Sure.
non-compliance. But again, it's $250 a day, up to $5,000 on a single non-compliance issue.
And the board would still retain the jurisdiction to abate or modify that fine later if it so chooses.
Right,
So
but again,
chooses.
if it's the lighting, or if it's the lighting and the camera issue, it would be up to $5,000 on that issue.
Okay,
And if the girls came back, it'd be $5,000 on that issue.
okay, so that's each
Details like
issue.
this.
Right,
Okay,
and then if they're still not in compliance, you don't have to worry about the money, you can go for a temporary injunction to close the business.
okay. And detective, for purposes of clarification, what are the specific issues of non-compliance as of today from the city of Fort Lauderdale's perspective?
Wait, we just verify that you paid the invoice?
Yes, I have it here. The invoice is paid.
Number 8 of the order, the owner will install and maintain exterior lighting that will completely illuminate the parking lot located on the south side of the store, the alleyway on the west side of the business, and the rear parking lot, parking area and alleyway. These areas will be illuminated from dusk to dawn. In my observations, the alleyway on the west side of the property and the rear of the property is not illuminated. And
You said alleyway on the west side and what else?
in the rear of the property, you can pull up the slide from the rear. The front is good, but this back, maybe the next one,
Well, this isn't that.
you go back. Back.
Yeah, there was
Back.
one more.
This one.
So that alleyway on the left-hand side there.
I see
maybe go
that,
back
yeah.
one. And back one. And then, again, my camera is doing it a lot of justice here,
Where
but
the blue is,
essentially,
where the fence?
yeah, essentially that back area.
No, not with the blue, where the people.
Well,
Yeah, oh,
where the
it's the
people
back
are
area.
and the back area.
Right.
I mean, it makes it look like,
The other side.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing what they do.
Yeah,
You can kind of get a sense of it of that other picture that it's not illuminating it, but it's very dark back there. It's difficult, if not impossible, to see anything in mainly that back area and that side area.
Okay.
See how dark it is in this one?
Are there any other provisions, detective?
And then the provision regarding video surveillance, item number 6 of the order. Within 30 days, the owner will install and maintain a minimum of 1 exterior video camera on each side of the property and a minimum of 1 interior video surveillance video camera capturing the entry and exit of the business, as well as the counter area, and 1 interior camera that will be focused on the cashier and cash register, which will monitor and record the video and activity transactions. The camera will be installed and maintained according to all City of Fort Lauderdale code requirements. The exterior video surveillance cameras will be mounted and positioned in strategic locations to ensure that all activity outside of the business on the property is monitored and or recorded, and the video will be made available to the Fort Lauderdale Police Department during all business hours. There's also number 16, which kind of speaks to the same matter, which is the data obtained from video surveillance system can be used by the Fort Lauderdale Police Department for any reason they want. And within 30 days, the owner will post video surveillance warning signs on all exterior walls of the business and entry exit locations.
That
So
has not yet been done.
those
That posting.
that has not been.
So you have three things not compliant.
16.
Eight, six,
It was item number 6,
6, 8, and 16.
item number 7 spoke to lighting according to code, but 8 is the actual lighting itself. And then 15 was the video warning signs, and 16 is kind of redundant because they can't give us access to something they don't have, but
Wait, so they're all, so those two are separate, like they could be 250 each day for each of them?
I would let the city attorney weigh in on that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's like what he said, the word redundant, it kind of makes you think it's the same issue altogether because they go hand in hand.
Essentially, in my opinion, it would be item number 8, which was the actual lighting issue, and item number 6, which was the actual camera issue.
Sounds like they go hand in hand because I guess cameras don't really work without light either.
Yeah,
If they're outside, I mean,
You
I,
said 16 as well. Did you say 15?
Yeah,
They went with
6, 8, and 16.
15 is just a warning, but not, if,
The
to be
warning
honest,
signs.
if we're just talking about what the non-compliance issues are that are of any consequence, that I would like the board to consider would be 6 and 8.
Do you have that, do you have this list?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we have-
Yeah.
Yes, I sent them the order right away. With the lighting, there's some concerns. I'm a contractor and a developer. When I went in, the reason I wanted to do it the right way and have their cooperation is because there's some things that's been there for a long time, that need to be straightened out. So we can't do the outside lighting without addressing the inside lighting. Is because there are some things that's out of compliant. There's cables hanging down from different portions. So there's no way we'll pass an inspection. So I wanted to try to wait till we can get a good conversation going with the tenant so we can get that addressed. So I do have the quotes. I have the quotes for the cameras, I have the quotes for the lighting, ready to
How much
go.
money are we talking about?
We're talking about, the camera system that I would like to put there. I used to do cameras myself. So we was looking at about, $2,800 to upgrade the
For the
camera. Yeah, for a
and the
better
video
technology.
surveillance, that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
And then
for-
what about the lighting?
The lighting gonna cost us about 7,000 just for the
10 grand.
exterior. Yeah, about 10 grand total.
Being
Um,
compliant?
And that's not necessarily including the interior because I didn't allow the electrician to go inside and do things without the consent of the tenant. So we just sort of glanced at it and me and the electrical contractor both agreed that there are several issues inside that need to be addressed. So we kind of wanted to do them hand in hand. So if you all could be a little lenient with the lighting, that'd really be beneficial for us. I understand the camera system.
If the tenant makes these improvements that are mandated by us now, and then the next day they shut down their business, that equipment stays with the
With the
property, right?
If we were to, we're prepared to do it without their cooperation, but we need possession of the property. So that's why we hired an attorney, because in order to comply fully from our standpoint, there's,
You're not looking for them to pay for it.
Oh, they don't have, right now at this point, we're doing what we can.
Oh, you just want access.
Yeah,
to
we
be
just
able to
need
do everything.
access. That's been the problem.
No.
My whole argument wasn't, hey, a tenant and landlord dispute. We don't care about that. What we care about is being compliant, and we took serious action immediately. We was out there the next day putting up signs and everything that we could do, we did. I tried to send multiple correspondence to both the attorney. He prevented me from sending anything to the tenant, which is, the way it goes. And I said, hey, look, y'all work with us on this. So in the event, I had to serve eviction notices, to say, hey, look, you're not complying with us. Now we have to go to a court to try to get an injunction. They stop their activities or at least allow us access to comply with this order. Because if we go in we can't just forcefully go in, you know?
There are
Yes,
issues.
Yeah, I know.
and- right, I know. I know.
There are issues are.
No, I realize.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
No,
explain, you know?
But
We have
having
access.
said all that, you're right here, you represent the tenant. You can't give them access tomorrow?
I mean, that's
Yeah,
between
yeah.
them. That's
No,
not us.
but it'll quickly resolve it.
But
Just like
that's-
they go through it. They can't go through.
Can I-
tomorrow and
We've
can I-
do it.
never denied
Can I
access
just,
to them.
can I say one more?
Yes.
Well, we don't have it.
That's not our concern.
yeah.
Where is that?
Just get it done.
We
Get it
requested
done.
access.
Can I
And
make
and
a-
I
can I make
I
another
wouldn't worry
statement?
about the attempted tenant termination.
Yeah, well, I
It's not
would.
gonna happen.
I would.
All right, just
Okay.
to maintain a quorum and some order, we'll do everything through the chair.
Mr. Prasad.
Yeah, with respect to the two items, I know that we're gonna get hit with a fine for non-compliance, and I've made the commitment when I was here in the first day that. I know Mr. Willis, who's the representative, is trying to get all the costs covered, but I've committed to him that whatever need to be done to comply, if I have to fit the bill, I will, because I don't want to be in front of this board and I want to make sure I'm compliant. And the issue we have with those two items that we can, if we had that access 3 weeks ago, we would not be talking about that today. It would have been done. And the other issue is, as recent as 3 days ago, I have some warehouse racking that sit behind the building, which I would consider would be a problem on the order, because it said to remove all debris and everything. And I sent a text to the tenant. I'm just talking access issue. And I got no response. I sent the driver to remove all those things in the back so we can be compliant. The clerk was on the phone with the owner and they refused to give access. I had to ask the guy to cut the lock to remove those things so we can be in compliance. So I just want to state that.
Oh,
So I am not sure how we're gonna resolve this if we don't have the access.
You want to say something or? Yeah.
I he just is making certain accusations that my tenant would not agree with at all.
Okay.
And I understand you're in a tough situation because you're listening to a tenant landlord
Well,
dispute.
actually, we're not in a tough situation because
Yeah.
there's recommendations. How you all come
Right.
get it
Right.
done is between you,
Right.
your attorneys or whatever.
Yes,
We want to see it get done.
Absolutely.
We do not
Yeah.
want to put
Yeah.
people out of business. We do not want people to have hardships, but you're under our jurisdiction. The things have to be followed, no matter how, that's how y'all decide to do it, that's between y'all. The what ifs and why it's not getting done, you guys gotta iron that out. Because we're not gonna listen to this every
Yes.
meeting and have the
Right.
same discussions of who's not talking to who. These need to be complied, that's the bottom line, and we'll do what we have to get it complied. That's the bottom line. But y'all need to work together and play in the sandbox like adults and not keep doing the back and forth. I don't want to hear it anymore. It's going on for 2 meetings.
Yes.
So did you have something that you?
Well
wanted
said.
to-
Thank you.
I mean, if we're done with discussion, I've got a motion, but if not, I'll let discussion. Until the further chair.
I would say discussion is over because it's been repetitive, so.
I would move for a finding of non-compliance with respect to paragraph 6 and 8 of the original order invoking the jurisdiction of the nuisance abatement board and order in compliance. But would abate any consideration of the specific fine amount to next meeting.
So just to clarify, you did what the one of those things Don talked about, right? So you say, we are starting the fines now, but we're deferring them until the next
We
meeting.
are finding non-compliance for the or
Right.
I'm moving to find non-compliance with the order of the nuisance abatement board.
Okay,
Any specific amounts to be assessed against the owner are to be determined at the next meeting.
at the next meeting, okay, got it.
Motion on the floor.
I second.
Any further discussion?
On the motion.
Madam Court Reporter, if you would take the roll, please.
Mr. Lindsay,
Aye.
Mr. Pimpert,
Aye.
Mayor Slotnick,
Aye.
motion carries.
Motion carries.
And then I would just say that if the owner or tenant or whoever, certainly through the owner, if you believe compliance has been reached, i.e. cameras are installed and lighting is up, please take pictures, send them to Joyce and I. You can call me, I'll come out, we'll do another inspection. And that way, at whatever point the property is in compliance, we want to make sure the board knows that. So that when we come back for our next meeting and the board considers whatever the finding may end up to be, they'll know exactly what the date was of compliance.
And your next meeting usually is in about 60 days.
Yeah, we
We meet every month.
customarily don't meet in August, so September 14th will be the next meeting.
Okay.
So
Usually it's every Thursday.
Yes.
first Thursday of the month.
Okay.
So that's, you know, like,
Second, sorry.
we've got some extra time then.
Hopefully
Get it done.
you guys work it out.
Yeah.
It's gotten better.
Yeah.
It's,
I want to work it out. That was.
it's hopeful.
Thank you.
Loiterings went down like,
Yeah, I think the lights make a big difference outside.
yeah.
I couldn't believe when I went to that property a week later. I was like, I almost fell out of the car.
Well, because, they have a beautiful relationship with the community. And when we was out there just explaining to people what's going on, they got the message. They like, okay, no problem. I say, just go in, buy what you need to buy and get out and go, so they.
Well, I think also last meeting, we cleared up the definition of loitering. Because everybody seemed to have a different opinion of what that was. So anything else for this property? Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks very much.
Anything else between the board?
No.
No?
Okay, September
Jerry.
14th. We'll
Have a
do
good
it.
summer.
Hold on.
Please try to be,
Be at
please
the,
try to be
Father
here
was speaking.
a little
Yeah.
bit,
Father.
like at least 10 minutes before 7, so we can
Good.
get started on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were.
Nice to meet you.
I look to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good.
All right, so September, and
14th.
as far as we know.
We're here today.
Okay, that's.
What happens after that?
Right.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
All right, great.